Hello everybody, I know it's been a while since we've seen each other's faces, but I was actually inspired to bring you guys a new build video because of the new Cozy Bistro kit. This build was kind of inspired by this really famous laneway here in Melbourne where I live called Degraves Street. It's got this really narrow laneway or alleyway. No, it's not an alleyway, it's a laneway. And it's like lined with all these cafes and eateries, and down the middle are all the tables and chairs, and they all have like umbrellas. What also makes it really iconic is it's got like a lot of signage and that kind of thing, but when you look down the laneway, it is really quite beautiful. So I started off basically just building like the two sides of the laneway, and there are six shops in total. Some of them are cafes and some of them are just like restaurants or like a bubble tea place, but each of them has like their own theme and their own vibe, and they're all quite different from each other. And yeah, you can see that I've built that like laneway down the middle where I'm going to put all the tables and chairs. So I opted for kind of like a gothic style. I'm really bad at, architecture style names, but I think the actual buildings that are on either side of Degraves Street here in Melbourne, I think it's gothic style architecture. I'm not really sure, but I've tried to emanate that kind of style in our build with the like dark gray brick, and I think later on I put like a gothic trim around the whole thing. So I picked this lot because it's just waterfront and it just looks so cool. It's like got an amazing view, especially when you're actually looking down that like middle of that laneway and you're like looking out onto the water at the sunset. It's just really beautiful. So that's why I picked this spot. I don't know how this build would like actually function because there are like technically 6 different shops, but I don't know. I've met all the requirements of like a cafe lot type, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't play tested this, okay? You guys know gameplay is like not my thing. I just like to build. So I started off by placing the 6 front doors. I didn't really have the themes like in mind as I was building this. They kind of like organically developed as I was going, but I basically wanted to capture that iconic exterior view of Degraves Street by putting all the signage that you see on the sides of all the buildings. The real Degraves Street is also like a little bit run down. It's like kind of old and dirty. So I put like just your typical sort of city building things like air conditioning, the street lights and signs and vents and like the electricity box and that sort of thing, just to add that vibe of being in like inner city, The signs that I put down were all like pretty random as well. Again, it's more just about creating the overall effect. I wasn't really trying to be too strict with if the signs matched what was inside the shop. And then I went ahead and started placing all of our seating down the middle of our laneway. So I wanted it not to all be the same seating, because the idea was the seating out the front of that particular shop like belongs to that shop, so they wouldn't have the same seating, you know what I mean? So that's why I've gone for like different umbrellas and different seating, and also it's just more interesting to have different kinds of seating, Another thing that I enjoy about this build and what I enjoy about this, like if it were to exist in real life, is how the 2 back shops on either side, the ones that are directly waterfront, sort of like open out from the back and it's like all completely open. I just think the effect of having that like direct alfresco area is really pretty, and yeah, I could see this totally being like a real tourist spot, So yes, a lot of copying pasting of the same table and umbrella and chairs over and over again, but I do think it really adds the effect. The real Degraves Street, my inspiration, like it is actually really crowded. Like the tables and chairs are all quite close together, and every time I walk past and I see people enjoying their brunch there, you're in pretty close proximity to other diners. I've just realized, I think it's because it gets so cold here in Melbourne, and if you have the tables and chairs close together, then the heaters obviously don't have to cover as large of an area. Anyways, at this point, I still didn't know exactly what the theme of each shop was going to be, even though the style of tables and chairs are all like fairly distinct. Yeah, they don't really reflect the theme of the shop. So this build, only the ground floor has been built out and furnished, but I did add 2 more floors just to make it feel like you're down like a city laneway. I feel like just having like the tall walls makes it feel more enclosed and cozy. And then I just added some windows, but I think I do end up moving the windows around later on. I also then just added the exact same back door for every single shop. I just thought it kind of made sense. Like if you were like the building owner and you were to subdivide this building into a bunch of shops, I feel like you would just put the same back access for each one. So this very first shop in the front here, I went with my, my old favorite aesthetic, cottage core. I wanted it to just feel very like your grandma's house or something like that. So we've gone with the gingham wallpaper, white timber, the little curtains, pastel colors. And my thought for this place would be it'd kind of be more like a tea shop rather than a cafe or a restaurant. So I basically just picked out every single thing that felt like a little bit rustic, a little bit cottagey or homemade, or could maybe like belong in an old farm or something like that. I picked mostly like pastel or white shades. We've got our open shelving here, and I'm just placing like a bunch of random bits and bobs here. I had a lot of fun cluttering this entire build. Every single shop, the decorations were really fun to do. I love a theme, and for me to have 6 different themes in 6 pretty small rooms, each of these shops are very small, like can only serve like a dozen patrons at a time sort of thing. But yes, you know me, I love to just stick to one theme. My attention span is so short, so if I have to furnish more than like a few rooms in a single theme, like I run out of steam. So with our first little tea shop, a cottagecore tea shop, I've gone for mostly like baby pinks and baby blues. And yeah, like I said, I wanted it to feel like a cozy spot where you could like read a book and have a hot drink. So instead of like a bunch of tables and chairs, I've gone for more couches and coffee tables. I've gone for mismatched furniture. I kind of wanted to feel like everything was picked out from a thrift store or something like that. I had to layer my rugs and just, make this place feel quite eclectic. I think if you stick to like a color palette, so in this case, baby pinks, baby blues, whites, everything will just sort of tie in and match, even though nothing actually matches, if that makes sense. So I have to admit, it's been a little while since I've sat down and properly just built in The Sims 4. So I'm a little bit behind on some of the newer packs and kits that have come out. So it was fun for me to discover some of the newer items that have come out in the last year or so. Those of you who've been watching this channel and who've seen my streams know that I'm a bit of a fiend for custom content, but this entire build has no custom content. I actually did still have a lot of fun with it just because there are just so many items now from all the various DLC. I don't know what name I would give the theme of our second shop. It's sort of like a farm to shop kind of cafe or restaurant, but it's not cottagecore. It's like actual farm, if that makes any sense. Like it's lots of timber and a lot of like mismatched rustic items and a lot of produce that's sitting out like in that back shelf. I feel like you see a lot of fresh produce, that little pottery shelf there. It gives me the vibe that everything here is sort of like handmade, fresh from a farm. Like kind of farm to table vibe, I guess. I initially had the flooring behind the counter black and the rest of the shop like off-white, but I ended up making the entire floor black. I just feel like it's a little bit less disjointed, just having the entire floor black. So I'm kind of jumping around a little bit because as I was scrolling, like I said, I haven't really been building much. So there are a lot of items in the game that were new to me. So as I was like scrolling, I'd like see these like new items or different items and think in my mind like, oh, that would be really good for like this themed shop. And so actually as I was scrolling through the catalog, that's kind of how I began to formulate the themes of the other shops. I would sort of just start grabbing a bunch of items and just dumping them into another shop just so I could have it there, so I wouldn't have to go back and scroll through the catalog and try to find it again. But back to this farm to table shop. I think that's what we're going to call it, farm to table cafe. It's similar to our first cottagecore shop in the way that there's a lot of mismatched thrifted looking items. But to keep it distinct from our cottage core shop, I've gone for like less floral, frilly and pastel. Everything is much more like neutral colored, more like timber tones and metal tones. I would also say that this second shop is more of a typical cafe where obviously there's an espresso machine, fresh baked goods like made from scratch, all out of the farm's produce, that kind of thing. So our third shop, I don't know what name you would give this, but the inspiration for this shop was just straight up tourist trap. One of those typical shops that are in like the best location. In this case, it's the end lot that's directly looking out on the water. And because of its prime location, it doesn't need to have like the best quality food or like the most amazing menu or the most amazing fit out either. Obviously, we're still going to make it look cute, but I hope that makes sense. Like I hope there's places where you guys live where it's just the touristy spot. So people will come and eat your food there no matter what. So you don't really care too much about the quality of the interiors or the food. That was the theme for this one. Tourist trap. Okay, that's what we'll call it. We've got like black tile. The industrial kitchen looks directly out into the dining space because I imagine this to be like a really fast-paced, high turnaround kind of restaurant. So yeah, we've got like an ugly industrial kitchen. Just, I don't know, everything's a little bit daggy, I guess. Furniture's a little bit worn down, the floor's worn down, the posters and decorations on the wall are kind of random and like don't really make any sense. But there are double doors that lead straight out onto the outdoor dining space that lead out straight onto the waterfront dining. I've opted for these tables that look a little bit worn out, those metal chairs that definitely don't look very comfortable. They're cheap, but again, it doesn't matter because you're not really there for the food, you're there for the view. I also put these like little tables outside in those two end lots that just have crockery and cutlery that I imagine wait staff would just, you know, grab instead of having to go all the way back into the kitchen. But yeah, nothing too crazy going on. This one, I purposely made it just a little bit messy, but I still think the theme, tourist trap, still kind of works in this case, even though it's not like a clear aesthetic. Our next shop, which is also a waterfront shop, I'm not ashamed to say it was 100% inspired by The Bear, which is a show that I'm like freaking obsessed with like everybody else. So this was inspired by the new Bear restaurant. So if you've seen the show, they renovate the old sandwich place into this really elegant fine dining spot. It's very Japan-y vibe, I would say. A lot of pale timber, just very sleek, has like really cool lighting and all that kind of thing. The feature that I've directly ripped off is the little windows that look into the kitchen. So because I really wanted those windows, I had to add a kitchen. I wouldn't say it's a very functional kitchen. Again, I have no idea how this build would actually perform like in gameplay. I don't know if your Sims could actually visit this place and successfully be served a meal. As for the furniture, yeah, like I said before, that Japan-y style. There's a table at the front for the maitre d'. I've put a few plants here and there, and yeah, I've just gone for like some really simple modern lighting. So I'm adding more signs onto the outside of the buildings just because I want it to look really full and like, yeah, cluttered and abundant and just really striking if you were to actually look down and just see all those signs. This next shop is like cool French wine bar. I used a lot of items from the new Bistro kit, which I actually really love. I just think it's so nice. It has a lot of really like truly beautiful items. I think The Sims did a great job designing this one. Yeah, like I said, it was like my direct inspiration for this entire build. And it literally inspired me to build 6 cafes and restaurants. So this one I've gone for that like really dark, moody timber vibe. I want to say there's a lot of expensive antique furniture in here. That little table or stand at the front for the maitre d', trendy. I really enjoyed that touch. It just makes the whole place feel so classy. There's a little lounge at the front because I sort of envision this place to be, yeah, more like a wine bar, less of a restaurant or cafe, but rather the place where you go to enjoy a wine before or after your dinner. I wanted the interiors to be, yeah, like really moody. At first I was gonna do all like jewel tone, like all the furniture jewel tone, and do dark reds, dark greens, dark blues, but I just couldn't resist a light pink. There was a bit of light pink in that white coffee table with the floral design on it. So I think we could get away with it. I really love those little wine racks. I think it came with this new pack, but yeah, I basically just lined up 5 of them. So it sort of looks like a buffet table or something. And then I just put a bunch of wine bottles and the candles on top. I really love the effect it gave to the entrance of the shop. And then yeah, just some candles, really dim wall lighting, just to give that really romantic, moody feel. So this last shop, I struggled big time. So I knew I wanted it to be a bubble tea shop. I wanted it to feel very youthful, bright colors, bright lighting, but I just was having a hard time because the colors of this bubble tea counter are so fugly. I don't know why they couldn't have made like plain white or just cute colors that actually matched some of the cute pastel wallpaper. I struggled a lot and I do change things around quite a bit throughout this build. I wanted to make the seating a little bit different in this one. So instead of like the individual tables or lounges that we see in the other builds, I've gone for the bench going along the wall. I feel like I see this kind of seating arrangement a lot in bubble tea shops and just like drink shops in general. This is also the only lot that has a bathroom. It's just one of the requirements of a cafe lot type. You need to have a bathroom, you need to have a bin, you need to have a sink, blah, blah, blah. So this is the only toilet on this entire lot. So yeah, I wanted this build to be like really fun, playful, youthful. I chucked some neon lights onto the walls. I used all 3 swatches of the bubble tea menu decals that come with the high school pack. That back counter, I've gone for the all white swatch. And then what I ended up doing was grabbing the island version of that counter, sizing it up just a tiny little bit so that it would be just ever so slightly taller than the top of the counter, like the bubble tea built-in counter. And then I just put it over the bubble tea counter because the colors were just so ugly. And I thought having plain white was probably our best bet. So that's what I've done. You can still see a little sliver of the black original counter, but it's fine. Like from the front, it looks like white. Will it be functional? Probably not. I haven't play tested this. I won't play test this because I can't be bothered. This was purely just for me to be creative and have fun building. As I was building this last shop, I also was still just finding like little gems in the catalog. Scrolling through the catalog, I just like spot something and be like, yep, that's perfect for the wine bar next door. There's just so many items now in this game. One of my biggest gripes has always been how poorly organized the categories are. And with so many items now, it's harder than ever to find the thing that you want, I think. I know I'm also just not as familiar with the catalog anymore, but there were certain things that I knew in my mind existed, but I couldn't think of its name. I literally just had to scroll and hope for the best and hope that I was in the right category. So yeah, basically just adding finishing touches to all the other shops as I find new items. Back to our bubble tea shop though. Yes, I did end up changing that wallpaper to that floral wallpaper, and the little fruits on that feature wall work really well, I think, with the space. That little corner in the front there, I just added in some colorful furniture there, and I've changed the tables all to pink. The last finishing touch of every build I've ever done is always the plants. I don't think any of the other shops really had any wall plants, but I thought it would make sense to have a few plants hanging off the walls in this particular shop. I also have to mention the clutter that I added onto the back counter there. So we've got the coffee machine, but I also used those pump bottles. I don't know what they are, but they're just like different flavored syrups. So that's our completed build. I love all the signs. I love how busy and cluttered it looks. This is our first cottage core build. It is just like the perfect coziness, softness, a little bit rustic and mismatched. Love the vibes in here so much. Yeah, I think farm to table is a really good name for this theme because we've got the metal and timber. It's like a little bit industrial and the produce is really front and center in this one. Next up, we've got our tourist trap. It's not the prettiest, but we all know what type of shop this is. Nothing too creative on the menu, but the view is like worth it. Next up, we've got our little bubble tea shop. Very like fresh with the fruit decals and all the plants on the walls. I think that white counter really helps because yeah, we don't have to see that ugly counter thing. I think this wine bar is my favorite. It's just so pretty. It's so beautiful. I personally would definitely hang out here. I just know it would smell good here. I know they would be serving like best cocktails and the best charcuterie. Like this place is just a vibe and I really love the lighting that we've done in here. And then our last waterfront shop is we didn't actually give this theme a name because I just straight up ripped off the bear, but I would call it like modern Japanese. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching how this build came together. I hope you enjoyed listening to my thought process. I feel like I was rambling quite a lot here, but I think it turned out really cute. I feel like I captured the vibes that I wanted to capture, and I had to include what it looked like during sunset as well because this lighting is just so pretty. Thank you so much for watching this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this build. Which shop is your favorite? Which one do you want to go and have a drink in? Let me know. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!